Let's podcast. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, anything you need to the cloud. I know the Super Bowl had a bunch of ads about AI and this and that. Humans still matter.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Hold on.
What?
Hold on.
What did you do?
Oh, hold on. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Okay. Anyway, I'll continue to do this. So anyway, go contact.
Just hang on. I think I can do it. Oh, no.
What am I missing here?
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Are we supposed to do a show the day after the fucking Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Oh, did you tell me we were doing a show today?
But I just assumed you knew we were doing it.
Oh, yeah. Like almost like if I was in the Super Bowl, I would just assume to fucking try while I was in the Super Bowl. Hey, I am really trying to clean up my language, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. Did no one fucking tell you there was a game yesterday? That was beyond embarrassing. I'm not even embarrassed for you. I am pissed at myself. I have bet against you motherfuckers every year. And you piped me.
Watch the table.
I
I have the cameras.
The one time I succumb. The one time. And then you get to the Super Bowl and don't even try. So maybe I'll send you a memo next year. Hey, the Super Bowl is played on a Sunday, just in case you didn't know. That was awful. Awful.
I don't know if it was awful. You know why? It was a wonderful night for haters. It was a glorious night for haters.
I'm the biggest hater there is, so explain to me how it was wonderful for me.
I mean,
because my Tariq Hill take finally comes home.
Yes. It's a wonderful night for the haters.
If Tariq Hill played offensive line, maybe.
Maybe that would be the case. No, the reason why I say it was a wonderful night for the haters, because obviously you have Kendrick Lamar with the halftime show, which we'll get to later in the lightning round. And you also have the Kansas City Chiefs haters had a ball last night. You should have enjoyed last night.
If only.
You should have enjoyed last night. But what happened was
only
you cursed yourself because you never cashed the ticket out. You were put in the Kobayashi Maru situation. Okay. I haven't had a chance to break out of Kobayashi Maru in a hot minute. All right. A hot minute. For those who are unfamiliar with the Kobayashi Maru, it is a reference to Star Trek. And there's a scene in Star Trek where Starfleet Academy cadets are supposed to go through this computer simulation dealing with Klingons. You're supposed to do this rescue mission, but the Klingons show up. There's no winnable scenario. The whole point of it is so that captains are faced with a situation where you cannot win. You cannot win.
Adrian, top of the steps. You can't win.
So Kirk is like, I don't believe in unwinnable scenarios. So he reprogrammed the simulation so that he could win. Okay. Again, that's the bit. So you found yourself in this situation with the Chiefs.
Tried to reprogram.
You had a ticket. Had you cashed out the ticket ahead of the Super Bowl, you probably would have made what?
In fairness, it was not offered to me.
It was never offered?
No.
I thought at one point you were able to cash it out.
That was the Lions Chiefs one.
Oh, I see.
It did not require the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. It just required the Chiefs.
Okay.
And the Lions both getting to the Super Bowl.
Well, then let me rephrase because I think it still works here.
Yeah.
Had you never had a ticket on the Chiefs,
right,
they would have won. They would have won 3 in a row. And you were like, damn you, Chiefs. Okay. But because you had the ticket.
Because I stood to benefit.
You stood to benefit.
Yeah.
Then this happens. So you were in a Kobayashi Maru, man. It was that simple. But the reason why I say it was a great, like for me, to be clear, I wanted the Chiefs to win because I wanted a three-peat. I wanted to see this thing happen. And I wanted to see how people were going to react to it. But if I'm not going to get a three-peat, well, then I wanted something like that. Something so out of left field. Something that completely just unmoors how we will talk about the event. And that's exactly what we got. Because let's think about it. Nobody went into that game thinking Nick Sirianni and his weird shave my head 2-2 in October, this thing's falling apart, going against Andy Reid was going to work itself out. And sometimes I say it was a night for the haters. It was also a night for the vibes. Sometimes vibes are more powerful than X's and O's. And there's something that Nick Sirianni has going with this Eagles team, which was, top to bottom, one of the best teams in the NFL statistically.
For sure.
Okay. And all the stuff about Jalen Hurts, that he's a game manager, he's a game changer. Can you win a Super Bowl with him? Can you win with that? I mean, all this other stuff that came up with the discussions about the Eagles, which I thought was kind of pedantic after a while. Sometimes you got the right mindset. And I'm going to come out, I'm going to smush you. And you're not going to know what to do. And that's exactly what happened with the Chiefs. They came out and they smushed them and they did not know what to do. I was in awe of the halftime stats.
Well, on the first play of the game for the Chiefs, they got 11 yards. After that, for the rest of the half, they ran 19 plays. They did not get another first down the rest of the half.
Mm-hmm.
They got 2 total yards on those 19 plays. The biggest, and then, of course, the Eagles scored more points while the Chiefs offense was on the field than the Chiefs offense did.
Yep. 20 total plays, 0-6 on third down, 23 total yards, 1.1 yards per play. That's insane. 1 first down, 2 interceptions. And I was waiting. Have I missed it? Was like Patrick Mahomes in an iron lung all week? And I didn't know? Nobody knew?
There's not been a Eugene Robinson or Stanley Wilson-esque story told for the downfall of the Chiefs from last night. They literally looked like a football team that did not understand that there was a football game to be played. They did not show up for the football game.
So this gets back to what I was saying about if we're not going to get the three-peat, give me a result that completely just makes people go tilt. And
I was tilted.
No, clearly you were tilted. What this does to Andy Reid and how people were talking about Andy Reid changes.
Oh, yeah, there were 2 big winners last night.
Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Because as much as we can laud Andy Reid, and I'm not saying Andy Reid's a fraud, it's just that when you start to get into that differentiating, when you get into the stratification of the best coaches to do it. Because what did you always say about Andy Reid versus Bill Belichick? And the Super Bowls and the winning records and everything else. Like Andy Reid had a lot of things going in his favor because of 2 stops.
Yeah.
All right.
Not just one, not with just one quarterback.
So Andy Reid had that going, but you know what Bill Belichick never had happen to him?
Never had a game like this.
Okay.
In the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl.
No.
And then Patrick Mahomes, the whole reason why you would pick the Chiefs in the first place would be because, well, man, every time I bet against the Chiefs, they keep proving me wrong. So until somebody actually goes out there and beats Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I'm just going to fine, I accept it, whatever. And it's not like the Patriots didn't win all their Super Bowls. Not the point. They never had a Super Bowl like that. Tom Brady never looked that pedestrian in a Super Bowl.
Pathetic. Lifeless, pathetic. Again, uninterested in playing the football game, unmotivated to play the football game, unprepared to play the football game. I was embarrassed for them. I want to give Nick Sirianni and both Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts credit. I think one of the other we had the 2 big winners.
You did knock the camera.
The 2 big winners we had. The 2 big losers are Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, ESPN writers. They wrote a story in August that shaped the narrative for what we thought of the Eagles this year. On August 7th, 2024, ESPN, they described the relationship between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts as fractured and unhealthy, and said that Jalen Hurts, son of a football coach, didn't respect the X's and O's of Nick Sirianni. I mean, all unnamed sources, by the way, quoted in this story.
Yeah.
If I was Sirianni, I would print that thing out and sign it and send it to both of them with double birds.
Yeah.
Because ESPN created a narrative of, this is who the Eagles are. And Nick Sirianni isn't anything without Shane Steichen. Because remember, Shane Steichen left after they lost in the Super Bowl 2 years ago to become the Colts head coach.
Last year.
The Eagles started 10-1 last year.
Yeah. But they fell apart.
Yeah, the end of the season.
Yeah.
But while they were trying to explain this, they explained it in such a way that formed this narrative about Sirianni, about Hurts. That was simply not true.
But let's also be fair about where things were with Nick Sirianni and the Eagles. Okay, I mean, the man shaves his head and is kind of battling with fans. I mean, maybe he understands Philly better than we do, because Philly's a completely different kind of town.
No one understands Philly.
Philly's a completely different kind of town.
And they will fire Nick Sirianni in 2 years. They did the same thing with Doug Peterson.
Yeah,
so,
and I think he knows that.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget that it got so bad for Nick Sirianni that he brought his kid out to be the press conference
the shield.
Yeah. I mean, you know things are bad when you bring the kid out for a press conference shield, okay? So I don't want to dismiss the general tenor around the Eagles, but as the season went on and they righted whatever
and kept winning
and kept winning. They clearly they clearly figured out whatever it was what the problem was. But we still kept on what happened in October more than anything else.
I'm going to give you the two things that he did that I wish all of the coaches around here would do.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, Dave Doran, I'm talking to you. You mentioned they fumbled last year, so they're 10-1, then they close 5-5. Okay. So they go out and they get Vic Fangio to be their defensive coordinator. Was he pretty good this year? He was the true MVP of that game last night, by the way. If it wasn't Cooper DeJean, I thought that was the play of the game, actually. And then Kellen Moore, a guy who was with the Cowboys, with your rival, quite frankly. Was he that creative or that great with the Cowboys? Those were two big gambles. And for him, not Fangio, obviously not as big of a gamble. That was giving an older type of coach latitude to come in and think about all those things I talk about when we say, man, that was pretty obvious, wasn't it? You mean Philadelphia drafting all of those Georgia Bulldogs? Wow, those guys are really good in the NFL too. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't anyone else think of that? Well, no one else did.
Yeah.
So give him credit. And then you give him a great X&O coach like Fangio. You see the results, what they did defensively, which doesn't get talked about a whole lot. But give Kellen Moore credit. They scored 95 points in the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Some of that, the DeJean pick, all those other things. But you're talking about Sirianni having the wherewithal and the consciousness to say, hey, I can't do everything and I need help. And I'm going to go get two coaches, an OC and a DC, who are going to help me and put us in the best position to win, not only get back to Super Bowl, but to win the Super Bowl. So he deserves all of the credit for that. All of it.
One last thing that
those specific decisions.
So you were bringing up that ESPN story. It goes beyond that. I think I don't think.
Well, there was the other one was the receiver and Hurts didn't get along.
Yeah,
AJ Brown.
I don't think the Super Bowl result is going to change how we talk about stuff, but I am wondering if there will be some reflection upon how we talk about things in the NFL specifically. You've already heard me rail against the quarterback and quarterback only portions of the discussion and the main character energy that comes with it. But when I was out with the flu last week, I watched copious amounts of sports television. Copious amounts. Almost out of if I can't work, if I can't podcast, let me do something useful. Like, let me actually watch these shows that are aggregated all day, right? Because I'm convinced nobody actually sits and watches First Take.
Unless you're in an airport or a gym.
Right. Who the hell's watching Breakfast Ball on Fox Sports 1?
I don't know what that is.
Did you even know there's a show called The Facility on Fox Sports 1? Did you know that Keyshawn Johnson, my old friend, is doing a show on Fox Sports 1 now in the afternoon?
I did know. I did see Key on television. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let me see what these shows are actually like in the non-aggregated form, clip form.
Sure.
Dude, it's one of those things where it's like, it's okay to not talk about the NFL today. It's okay. There's other things going on. But no. First Take has to cook up another thing to get Chris Mad Dog Russo worked up about Stevie. I'm going to tell you right now. Jalen Hurts, you cannot win with Jalen Hurts. Okay. I'm like, okay. So then you get that. All right. Well, then now we need Cam to come in. All right. Well, Cam, what do you think? That's like, and we got to the point where on Friday morning, having exhausted all topics, we essentially got down to the
pick and chicken. Did we get the pick and chicken?
We did not get we did not get a pick and chicken.
Boo.
But we essentially got down to, would winning the Super Bowl change your opinion on Nick Sirianni? would winning the Super Bowl change your opinion on Jalen Hurts? And it's like, well, what haterific levels do you have to be on if they go on to win a Super Bowl that it would make you go, nah, Nick Sirianni's still trash, though. Okay. Nah, I still don't think you can win with Jalen Hurts. Okay. Like, that's where we're at with these conversations. So you're wondering, okay, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What I'm getting at here is look at Nick Sirianni and Ryan Day this year. Let's process this. Let's process this. And in a weird sort of way, I actually might be coming around to Joe Giglio's can we stop firing everybody after every game?
You got there. It wasn't all of the phone calls to the sports.
No, it took ridiculous levels of people still trying to find a way to fire the guy, even if ...
Right.
Ryan Day was like, you cannot top the Ryan Day discourse. Does it suck losing to Michigan? Yes. Should he lose to Michigan? No. Does he get in his head about Michigan that's in an unhealthy level? Yeah, man. I'm not disputing that. But when we start getting to the point where you got to fire his ass, even people were still talking about that while they were going through the college football playoff.
Yeah.
That tells me you've lost the plot. You've completely lost the plot when it comes to watching sports. Lost it. And then the same thing happened with Nick Sirianni. Now, I'm going to be straight up with how I talked about Nick Sirianni at the beginning of the season. With the way the year ended last year and how things had gotten started this year.
They were 2-2 after they lost down at Tampa 33-16.
And knowing how that town works, where the other Joe Giglio has to field calls on a daily basis about, I could coach better than Nick freaking Sirianni.
Again, no Shane Steichen. He was the real genius behind all of this.
Of course. That man was cooked.
Fractured, unhealthy. Yeah.
That man was cooked. Absolutely cooked in October. But much like Ryan Day was able to turn things around or, block out whatever or overcome this stuff, Nick Sirianni was able to do that throughout the rest of the season. And like to your point, when they put up the numbers they put up in the NFC Championship game, regardless of what happened in the Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni proved he was perfectly fine. He got it, to your point. Bring in the other guys that I need to bring in to make sure this all works.
A lot easier said than done. I'm telling you, man.
That's good coaching.
Such ego.
Yeah, and that's good coaching. That's understanding what's going on. So I do wonder if Ryan Day and Nick Sirianni will force people to reassess how they talk about shit.
No.
Is that too wishful of thinking?
Too wishful.
Okay, that's too bad. I was hoping that might be the case, but oh well, maybe next year. Maybe we'll have another catastrophic, insane loss that'll change people's minds.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
I'm glad you're back. The people have missed the OG Sports phone. I am not technologically savvy enough to work the OG Sports phone. I did get to play the jingle.
Yeah.
I did get to show the Nature's Relief slide.
That's good.
Because I was able to do that. I just made Hey Joe sponsored by Nature's Relief. But the actual phone calls themselves, I was incapable of putting on our program.
That's my fault because the Google account that the voicemail is tied to is mine.
It's actually yours.
Is my Google account.
You don't need me rooting through your Google account. Let's be honest.
Yeah, man. You don't need to see the gigs and gigs of Roy photos that I have in my Google Drive. Although you might be interested in all the emulation that I have sitting on my Google Drive. That's the real sexy stuff. Have you ever played a Virtual Boy emulator?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Oh, yeah. That's the sexy stuff.
Hey, Enoch and Raleigh here. Second time, long time. A lot of discussion about who's rooting for whom and who hates whom with these Super Bowl matchup. I just want to give my 2 cents. I'll be honest, this is on some straight up hater shit. But I hate Tom Brady so much that I realize every single Super Bowl and accolade that Patrick Mahomes can get puts him one step closer to erasing Tom Brady from the conversation a little bit. Maybe not erasing, but distancing him. So I'm just rooting for Mahomes simply so I can have a more tolerable quarterback to be considered the greatest of all time that I don't truly despise. Alrighty, keep up the great work.
Well, Enoch, I am here with the unfortunate news. It's only going to get worse.
I was going to say, you compared Patrick Mahomes to Michael Jordan last week. Unfortunately, he's closer to LeBron James than he is Michael Jordan.
Oh, no. I'm LeBron James. What a terrible existence. See, you're now feeding into it as well.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Feeding into that as well.
Just want to say congratulations to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, Kenny Pickett. Congratulations, Kenny Pickett.
If I don't get the 3 minutes of playtime into an ACC network special, what are we doing? If I don't get an accomplishment,
did we get a Pitt tweet from the Pitt football account?
I have not looked at Pitt's Twitter account.
A Pitt football player has been a backup quarterback of the Super Bowl champion every year.
If when we go to ACC kickoff in July, if I don't get Kenny Pickett's sizzle reel in an accomplished greatness montage, what are we doing? Kenny Pickett, ACC legend, Super Bowl champion. What a night. Kenny Pickett, victory formation over the Chiefs. That's the story of the night. Did Pitt tweet anything out?
I'm struggling to find their actual real account.
That's the OG Sports Show. It's brought to you by Nature's Relief. Check them out. Nature's Relief, hempstore.com. REALEAF, hempstore.com. Sorry, the flu is still messing with my brain ever so slightly. So big thanks to Nature's Relief for sponsoring the OG Sports Phone. You can call it at 919.
Oh, no, we got one.
2211. We got one?
Yes. Pitt Panthers champions. I guess they have two other players who are one looks like one's on the practice squad.
Okay.
One is on the defense. So, but it says champion with Kenny Pickett throwing the ball. So what a
time. What a time to be alive.
Housekeeping.
Big thanks to Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com. Green cleaning solution.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
I gotta ask our friends at Enovana if they have a post-flu, just please disinfect the entire house package. Either way, looking forward to, hey, look, man, all precaution, all safety measures. So big thanks to Enovana for sponsoring Housekeeping. Speaking of housekeeping, something that I have not said for a while, and I need to remind people because it helps podcast out. Rate the podcast.
Oh,
rate it
on the actual, wherever you get your actual podcast.
Wherever you get your actual podcast. 5 stars only, positive vibes only. You give us 5 stars. It helps with discovery. More importantly, giving it a review helps with discoverability. So leave a review if you like the podcast. If you're new to the podcast and you haven't left a review, or if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, and you support our corporate champions and you're trying to find other ways to support the podcast, easy way to do it is to give it 5 stars and leave a review, because that'll help with Apple Podcast discovery, Spotify discovery, and everything else. So we appreciate all your help on there. And then with YouTube as well, subscribing to the YouTube channel is fantastic. We appreciate that. But more importantly, if you're watching the video, throw a like on it, leave a comment. We get in the comments too, right? That's where we go for our Hey Joe, oftentimes from show to show. So by all means, do that as well. That helps with the YouTube algorithm. So review it, rate it, leave comments, throw up the likes. That helps the podcast in a big way, as does buying our merch. Go to breakingtea.com/OG. We got hoodies, we got t-shirts, we got all sorts of cool throwback designs with our friends over at Breaking Tea. Breaking Tea also has a great collection of Carolina Hurricane shirts. And for the Eagles fan in your life, they're going to have lots of Eagles Super Bowl shirts. So just like me, I have lots of Eagles fans in my life, including the person I'm married to. So go to breakingtea.com and make that work out. Speaking of the Super Bowl, did you eat a whole bunch yesterday? Are you slightly hungover? That's cool. That's cool. Those are good decisions to make on a Sunday at the Super Bowl. But now it's Monday, and it's time to make even better decisions. And that's go to o2fitnessclubs.com. They are more than a gym, and they really mean it when they tell you they are more than a gym.
Fitness, so much more than a gym.
So the the fitness clubs themselves, great locations. You ain't going to the gym unless it's got a convenient location for you. So that's key. You're not going to want to go to the gym unless the equipment is tip-top, top of line, new, clean stuff, which they do. The staff is incredibly helpful as well. So check. But it goes beyond just the workouts. There's also making sure that your body doesn't break down. Hello, Renew Physiotherapy for Joe Giglio. There's also
there tomorrow, but Krista is an Eagles fan. I may need to give it a month. I might need to reschedule.
Ooh boy. And of course, you have Loop Nutrition, which helps you make better decisions when it comes to eating so that you can get to whatever weight goals or just healthy lifestyle goals you're going for. And speaking of weight, if you watch some Super Bowl commercials, you might have seen a Hims commercial that had the people going, if you will, when it comes to things like weight loss. But you understand, they're not the only game in town. And they are not partnered with our friends over at O2 Fitness and Renew Physiotherapy and Loop Nutrition. Introducing Thrive, a trusted partner of O2 Fitness. We're talking holistic wellness support, clear guidance from board of certified doctors, no insurance required, free and discreet shipping from US-based pharmacies, and an easy online process. Two main things you need to know. The hot new thing that everybody talks about, the GLP-1s, which is the weight loss, and of course, oral testosterone, which, as you know, if you're an older gentleman, once you hit your 40s, things slow down a little bit. Testosterone production slows down. That leads to you not having as much energy and not being able to achieve fitness goals or just general day-to-day things. All that can now be done with our friends over at Thrive, a trusted partner of O2 Fitness. So go to livethrive.co. That's livethrive.co to find out more. A lot of information that's sitting out there. And again, you want to work with people that actually have like connections here, which is what this podcast is all about. Connections here. And they're a partner now with O2 Fitness. So get more with Thrive than with thems. See what I did there?
You're good at this.
I just want you to recognize.
That's why you're back.
Just want you to recognize, see what I did there. While you're working out, may I suggest you go to rowback.com to get the right gear for your workout. Rowback.com, again, is the website, RHOBACK.com. Use the promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. We're talking gym shorts. We're talking incredible, comfortable shirts. And then if you're going to hit the golf course or you're just looking for a nice polo to wear out with really cool designs, Rowback's got you. So go to rowback.com. And we had our first false spring.
Yes, we did, because it's cold this week.
It is supposed to be cold this week. And we had the first false spring, the spring of deception, if you will. And you're thinking, oh man, I'm going to sit outside and all that stuff. Not so fast, but it might put you in the mindset and starting to think about what your outside's going to look like before the mosquitoes arrive. So go to bugsbite.com, Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority to get you going on your outdoor needs and keeping those mosquitoes at bay this spring and summer, even into the fall, because you know how North Carolina is. It stays warm for a while. So again, check out bugsbite.com. Again, that's bugsbite.com. Over to ACC Hoops, where Duke, it's a wrap. The streak is over. They are not going to go undefeated in ACC conference play. They went up to Clemson, and it slipped, literally, not through their fingers, but just underneath, landed on their bums, and not able to get past Clemson. Court rush, all that kind of fun stuff. Clemson back in action tonight. They're hosting Carolina. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast. But specific to the Duke-Clemson game, the one thing that I was surprised by in this game was Duke's defense. Duke's defense was not sharp in this game on Saturday. And this is not some sort of red flag. It's not some sort of thing that makes me reassess where Duke is in the ACC or what I think they can do national championship-wise. What it does tell me is that the grind of the season might have gotten to Duke a little bit. They did not look as sharp in this game against Clemson. When they needed key stops down the stretch, they could not get them. And then, of course, there's the Cooper Flagg portion of this discussion, where I thought Clemson did a good job of taking Cooper Flagg out. And yet, Duke still found a way to be in the lead. I think that was a positive for Duke. But then once Cooper Flagg started going, I think he had 14 points in the last 6 minutes of the game. He kind of dragged them back into that game when it looked like it could have slipped through their fingers. But of course, all that good work was for naught because he literally slipped, lost the ball, and that was pretty much a wrap for Duke from there.
It's interesting. I've talked a lot about the value of Malwatch for Duke, and because it specifically means Flagg doesn't have to guard a 5. Well, I'm not sure what we consider Ian Shefflin, but he was a handful. He was giving Flagg problems on the defensive end and then vice versa. Yeah. So that's where I thought it was super interesting because Proctor had a special game, one of those pop-off games where we've talked about. Mm-hmm. But obviously Flagg with 4 points in the first half struggled. And I think a lot of that is his defensive matchup because Victor Locken, the Cincinnati transfer, gives you somebody that Malwatch matches up with. Well, Malwatch has to be on the court. He was only on the court for 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So he had a big game, and then Shiflin had a big game. And I thought, going into the game, my calculus was, well, Clemson's not overly athletic, so they won't beat Duke. Well, there's two ways to win, as you like to say. If you're not overly athletic, you either need to shoot the piss out of the ball, which they didn't necessarily do, or you have to have size. And I thought Clemson's size really came through in this game. As for Flagg, I struggle to find an example in ACC, Duke State, Carolina, nationally, college basketball. Duke has now lost 3 basketball games this year. At Clemson, it's 73-71. He has the ball. He travels, slips, turned the ball over. However it happened, it was a turnover. Yeah. The first loss was against Kentucky. His score's tied at 72. He drives into the paint, turns the ball over. They're down 74-72. He drops to the baseline, steps out of bounds, turns the ball over. Against Kansas, it's 73-71. He goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Next possession down, they're down 1. Drives into the paint, turns the ball over. Yeah. I cannot come up with an example of a player. He is either tracking towards the greatest redemptive arc of all time by having to get to the Final Four and winning in the Final Four and winning the national championship by having the ball in his hands and making the final play, or you have a guy who undoubtedly looks like the best player in college basketball now, has failed 3 times in the biggest moments for Duke.
Well, let's break these down into proper context, shall we? In the first 2 instances, the Kentucky and the Kansas game, let's start the Kansas number 1. That is all right, this is your first real big game. That was
Kentucky. It was the first real big game.
That was the first one? Okay. Yeah. That's your first real big game. This was in November
12th.
Okay. So he's just 17, Joe. Mm-hmm. You can dismiss that all you want, but it's just part of the story. He's just 17. Here he is in the development. I'll use the line I've used all season. He is speed running a 4-year career at Duke in 1 year. So that was his freshman year. You could also say that the Kansas game was part of that freshman, sophomore, however you want to,
2 weeks later, they played Kansas.
Build it in there. That was another one of those putting Cooper Flagg in a situation that he might have to be in when we come to March. How do you grow from there? This gets to the larger point too. Whether he succeeds or not, the one thing that I think is consistent and good for both how John Shire is coaching Cooper Flagg and how Cooper Flagg is as a player is that he wants the ball. He wants that moment. Okay. There is no deferring, although there wasn't one instance of deferring, but sometimes you make the right basketball play. But in those specific situations, it was you're the best player. You're positioned as the best player. If you're going to be the best player, you want the damn ball, which he did, came up short. That was also at a time where there were some cramping issues and some other stuff that were going on that they were trying to resolve. This one against Clemson was a shit happens because you don't think let's play the game like we like to play now that Coach K and Roy Williams aren't here. What if Mike Krzyzewski were still the head coach and his star player slips on the floor like that in a crucial situation? Didn't we just joke about the team managers in the NC State game with all the towels? Right. Mike Krzyzewski would say some snarky ass shit after the game about how I'll bring my guys up here to show you how to properly clean a floor. Like, because if you need to learn how to clean up, I'll run a seminar at ACC tip-off if I need to. Because that was kind of embarrassing. Now, on the broadcast, I think it was Corey Alexander that was talking about, well, all these players are standing around and, they're sweating. It was really humid that night. I don't give a shit. You got to clean the floor. Sorry. You got to clean the freaking floor. So that was a shit happens, man. I don't think that's any sort of indication of Cooper Flagg as a player. That is not, I have no control of my body, which you could argue was the case what happened with Kentucky and Kansas. That was I'm going down to drive. I had a clean look. Nobody's on me, and I literally fall on my ass.
Different than the Kentucky and Kansas turnovers, for sure.
Totally different.
But that wasn't their only opportunity to win that basketball game. They controlled that basketball game in the first half.
Yeah.
Even with him only scoring 4 points in the first half.
Yeah.
To your point, that was a credit to Duke.
I think that's good for Duke.
But if I'm Duke, number one, I love the way that they responded from the Carolina blowout by going to Syracuse and absolutely rammer-jammer, yellow hammering them.
Sure.
That's number one. But if I'm Duke now, Joe, I'm looking at the games that were close.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, loss. Arizona, who they pulled away from late there, fine. A win, but still a 14-point win. Kansas, loss. Other close games, not much in the ACC, right? Wake Forest is a 7-point game, but him and Proctor made plays at the end of that game, right?
Yeah.
And now this Clemp loss. So even if you give them the Arizona, they're 2-3 in the 5 close games that they've played.
So
that's not great, Joe.
If I can tap into,
so use whatever excuse you want to give them.
I'm not using.
You just gave him like 10 excuses, by the way.
I'm not using excuses.
He's 17. It was different. It was his freshman year. It was this. It was that. I'm just saying to you, I have covered this league for however long. I've never seen a star player have 3 moments like this where he has failed to deliver in those 3 moments in the way that he has. So hasn't even gotten a shot off in those 3 moments. Okay.
So I guess what's happening right now is, do I need to tap into the copious amounts of sports programming that I was consuming last week and wonder if Joe Giglio needs to get on that first take set with Stephen A. Smith and ask the question, does Cooper Flagg have a clutch gene?
Well, you have to deliver is what I'm getting to. Again, this season is about what they're trying to do.
No, do it right. Is Cooper Flagg clutch? That's the question you're asking.
No, I'm saying to you, I've never seen an example of a player 3 times.
Yeah.
I cannot dial up a number that says, all right, I remember this happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? High profile, going back to the Basketball Jones, I remember Duke failing against UNLV in 1990, but that was like a collective failure.
Yeah.
They come back the next year, they paid UNLV back.
Yeah.
Right? Like Chris Webber.
You don't get that now,
Chris Webber called a timeout that he didn't have the next year. He was back in the national championship.
You don't get that
the next year.
Yeah, you don't get
know
that
what I mean?
now.
So I'm just saying I can't give you a specific example like Kobe White or Zion Williamson. We had Zion's shoe blow up.
Yeah.
Right? Like a Jason Tatum or any of the others.
Well, the one Duke
that you want to compare them to.
The one Duke moment you're talking about, though, would be the Zion RJ Barrett year, where the decision to give the ball or have RJ have the ball at the end was more of the story than it was. It's not like Zion couldn't have his moment because it wasn't set up for Zion to have the moment, that sort of thing. And that gets back to my point about Cooper Flagg. There is no debate about who's it's supposed to be, what Duke is trying to do, what they're trying to set up, and it could lead to what you're saying.
It could be the ultimate redemption.
It could be when we get to the postseason that they're going to find themselves in this situation, which they will.
I mean, they're going to play. They're not Carolina 09.
No.
So they're going to play a close game in the NCAA tournament, if not 2.
In Cooper Flagg.
If not 3.
It could pay off with Cooper Flagg finally having that moment.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Speaking of moments, you need to have a moment with our friends at Keller Williams, the Donnelly team. TriangleNCCommercial.com, 919-616-8681. Anytime we talk about the ACC, it's brought to you by the Donnelly team. 919-616-8681.
If you're a Carolina fan living down in Clemson and you want to get back to the Triangle, get your business back to the Triangle.
Yes.
Give Brian and Julie a call. 919-616-8681.
Maybe you were out in the Bay Area because you wanted to go see some NC State hoops.
Chung Easy was out there all week, man.
Dude, total sicko.
How it doesn't.
But hey, man, I tell you what, you go out there and you can fall in love with that place.
Oh, easy.
It's really easy to fall in love with that place,
especially
right?
if Stanford is your last leg.
Goodness gracious. Although you probably want to get the hell out of there as soon as possible because, well, you saw what happened with NC State.
Fires, earthquakes, whatever.
Yeah. And once again, NC State and Carolina keep playing the same damn game.
They do.
The same freaking game.
They do it to themselves.
They really do. And in this particular case, we finally got to a point with the NC State Kevin Keats discourse where, what more do you want? You know, Kevin Keats, final moments of a game, drawing up a play, timeouts, blah, 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 blah. Stanford defended it well. What do you want?
It was a look. I mean, there was a foul too, but
yeah, what are you going to do?
What can you do?
Well, it's funny. You mentioned fouls. The same thing happened with Pitt at the end. I forgot which Pitt player had the ball at the end, but they were clearly looking to get to the line.
Oh, yeah. They drove on Cadeau.
They drove on
basically
Cadeau.
Hunting for, yeah.
And it's like, buddy, you're not going to get that call in Chapel Hill.
Probably.
You're not getting that call in Chapel. I don't care how mid Carolina might be this season. You might got that at home, but you ain't getting that call in Chapel Hill, dude. And I think the same kind of thing happened with NC State in that game with Parker. It was a makeable shot. It looked a little bit harder than it needed to be.
He didn't get a chance to land, though. That's all I'm saying.
And that's the
got to have a chance to land.
That's the thing. Yeah. And NC State's season continues with no ice cream on the road.
Don't blame Jared.
No, don't do that. Do not do that. Let's also give you our hot and cold of the week, shall we? Because they are basketball related. And it's brought to you by 1-800-PLUMBER and AIR. Again, that's 1-800-PLUMBER plus AIR. The website is the name, 1-800-PLUMBER. So go check that out. Or just call them directly, 1-800-PLUMBER. Again, it's right there. HVAC is crucial this time of the year as we get to the ups and the downs, right? It's hot today. It's cold tomorrow. That can really run your HVAC through the ringer, man. So get it checked up, get it serviced. All with our friends at 1-800-PLUMBER. What is our collective hot, Joe?
Our hot is St. John's, who won their 10th straight game. They're now 12-1, leaders in the Big East. They went to UConn.
Yeah.
They beat the national champs from the last 2 years, 68-62 on the road to improve to 12-1. Do you have the clip that I sent you about Rick Pitino? This requires a clip.
Hold on a second. All right, this is from Field of 68. If I told you in November we'd be 12-1 in Big East play, Rick Pitino, here's his response.
I would have said, how the fuck did we lose that one game?
Look at Ricky P.
He's good, man.
Living his best life.
He's good.
Come on.
Good. I love that.
Come on. Unfortunately for them, I only have a Final Four ticket. But unfortunately for them, I do have a ticket on them. So I am the king of almosts, which means they'll probably lose in the round of 8.
I don't know, man. I know Louisville fans who keep an eye on Rick Pitino are looking metrics-wise what this team looks like, and they are seeing championship Louisville level teams.
They struggle offensively, but they play really, 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 really hard defensively and create with their defense, but they're not a great shooting team.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, I was thinking about that too, tying it back to Duke, right? I've had some Duke fans, a little bit of back and forth with some Duke fans about how good offensively Duke might be. And you can give me the efficiency numbers, but the efficiency numbers take in a lot of other factors. I'm looking at watching them play. Like let's watch Duke play. I'm not saying Duke's trash offensively. I'm just saying they're not this juggernaut offensive output team. They score enough. They're going to win or they're going to lose based on that defense. And I get back to their defense just not looking as sharp in that game against Clemson, which also gets us to Louisville or to St. John's. I love teams like this. I love their identities. You love that the defense leads to the offense XYZ. The question then becomes, once you get into the NCAA tournament, are you going to run into, doesn't matter how good you are defensively, are you going to run into the hot shooter?
Do you play Alabama?
There's that.
You'll be in trouble. Anyone's going to be in trouble who plays Alabama.
So there's that
because they just score and score and score and score and score and score.
Now, going in your favor, scoring can get away from you.
Yeah.
And again, the defensive side of things are going to be the reasons why you end up winning games. In the case of the Duke-Clemson game, the one thing that Duke has done pretty well all season is rebound the damn ball. Guess who did a better job rebounding the ball than them?
Yeah, a team with the size in this particular case.
Which hasn't necessarily been Duke's problem. But
no.
Duke can run into that once they get into the NCAA tournament. But yeah, I think Rick Pitino is a good story on multiple levels, which gets us to the cold.
Okay.
Because Rick's still doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's a lot of coaches his age that have said, fuck it, I'm out.
Yes.
But Rick can't help himself. Rick, as he said, how'd we lose that one effing game? Dude wants to win. And as we were talking about earlier, Rick is very much these are the rules. Let's freaking do it. Okay. Juxtapose that to Tony Bennett, who is the cold of the day. This comes to us from our guy, Mike Barber, who covers Virginia athletics. During the halftime ceremony in his honor, former Virginia coach Tony Bennett points to the 2019 national championship banner and says it might be the last true amateur national title. Quote, I think we touched greatness. I think Tony Bennett needs to go out and touch grass. Yes, you did touch greatness. Anytime you win a national championship, you are touching greatness. But where you need to touch grass is this idea that in 2019, you were the last true amateur championship.
We were the real. We did it for the love of UVA and the grounds and Thomas Jefferson.
Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. And this is not, I guess, this is where I'm at when it comes to the discourse around college athletics. Either you're about it or you're not. If you're not about it, get the fuck out.
He did.
Tony did.
Yeah.
But now, go away. Go away. Because
they needed to honor him because they won the game. They needed him back in the building to win a game.
I know, it's kind of funny. At this point, it is what it is. This is the game now.
Yeah.
I'm not really all that interested in you telling me how it used to be.
How great it used to be, dude.
It was literally math 6 years ago. Okay.
Hey, you know what I always tell you? That was it. That was the end.
Yeah, but it's just not like the old days. Yeah, man, if you want to say it's not pre-pandemic anymore,
well, there was that.
There was that. I mean, okay, all right, I'll follow you now. I got you. Pre-pandemic. Yeah, man, life was a little bit different. I got you.
We need to take our idea to ESPN itself because, we can't frame it as the death, but we can still celebrate that year. You have that championship.
Yeah.
You have Zion.
Yeah.
You have Kobe White. You still have Kay. You still have Roy. You still have all of these other Hall of Famers, Boeheim in place. The only thing that wasn't there was Pitino at Louisville.
Adapt or die, man. Adapt or die. And the rest of it, just get out. Just go away. And that's kind of where I'm at with Tony Bennett right now. Big thanks to our friends at Whitaker and Hamer. Check them out, wh.lawyer. That is the website, the greatest website in the history of websites, attorneys and counselors at law. Small legal needs for personal reasons, or you got a small to medium-sized business, they can handle that for you.
How about business needs and contracts that need to be honored? They can do that too.
That's true. It's very, very true. You just got done with a Super Bowl party, right? You might have thought, man, we're bursting at the seams here for the Super Bowl party. I might need a bigger house.
Going to need a bigger boat.
Contact our friends at Hometown Realty. myhtr.com is the website. They can help you out. As we mentioned, two Roosters, they're saving money right now. Jared and the crew are saving money because NC State cannot win on the road.
I keep trying to convince him to flip the offer. If they lose, you get buy one, get one. And the second he flips that offer, they will win. The second he does it, I promise you they'll win.
When the season's over, we will ask the question because there's still a lot of season left, man. We don't know how things are going to go. But I do wonder, did two Roosters curse NC State? Is that the new NC State shit? The two Roosters curse.
Much more delicious.
Kind of is, actually. It's like, well, if we're going to lose.
So they got Carolina, Syracuse, GT, and Miami away left on the schedule.
Okay.
So it's in play.
It's in play?
I mean,
I have suggested to Jared, hey, man, with all the money you're saving on the BOGO deals, can you do like an official Two Roosters roster spot? Right? Like you just
NIL.
like an NIL deal. It's like, all right, you know,
Here's what I saved.
Here's what we saved. So here we go. We're gonna give this to you. You get the guy gets to wear a jersey. It just says Roosters on the back, and he wears number 2.
Number 2. That's pretty smart, actually.
Who says no?
That's pretty smart, actually.
Who says no? What's smart are the flavors they got coming up. It's still cereal mode right now.
The Rice Krispie treat one is just mind-blowingly good.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
So go to tworoosters.com to find out more. And hey, there's still a chance for NC State to win on the road. And of course, we got our friends at the Butcher's. Oh, real quick about Two Roosters too. Great Valentine's Day spot.
Yes.
Friday, take your sweetie to go get some ice cream.
Ice cream is always a winner.
So go do that. Speaking of which, maybe you want to stay in. So go get some pints at Two Roosters and then drop by the Butcher's Market on the way home to get any number of things that you can cook up. Or maybe you're like, it's just too much. I don't have time to cook, but I still want a great meal. No big deal. They have the frozen section of prepared meals, and that makes it super easy on a Friday night.
Yeah, when you walk into the Butcher's Market, think Ovies, think explore, think look around. Don't think me. Don't think hot dogs.
Yeah.
Don't think steak sandwiches. Think I can look around and see what they have here. And all of it is good.
Hey, but look, you know, hot dogs on Valentine's Day, not a bad play. Lightning round brought to you by Sam Jones. Check them out in downtown Raleigh. Greenville as well, the OG of the OGs out in Greenville. But in downtown Raleigh, Sam Jones, great lunch spot, great dinner spot. And while the big game might be over, that doesn't mean there aren't more catering opportunities. You got a birthday coming up. You have, I don't know, certain basketball tournament party you want to hold. Just a thought.
I do have a birthday coming up.
So there you go. Head on over to Sam Jones and they'll take care of you. Back to the Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar was the halftime performer. And once again, we are divided as a nation where people our age who absolutely refuse to engage in pop culture turn on the Super Bowl. They see Kendrick Lamar and go, who is this? What's this all about? Why can't you bring me my comfort food? Never mind, Kendrick Lamar was literally in a Super Bowl halftime show a couple years ago with Dr. Dre. Anyway.
Shout out to Rashad, James's friend, comes downstairs and he goes, that was not for you. He goes, but that was awesome.
Right.
He goes, trust me, that was awesome. I said, you're right. You're right. But I could still appreciate Serena Williams and some of the other things that were happening there. Yeah. Samuel Jackson and who else was in attendance. I can appreciate some of those.
That is
an old-fashioned protest.
That is something that I'm glad your kid's friend put it that way, because this is actually a similar conversation I was having as well in what this Super Bowl halftime show was about. Obviously, the point is to entertain. Yeah. I found it entertaining. I like Kendrick Lamar. And I had somebody on Twitter say something to the effect of, I'm going to need you to young-splain the halftime show that was low energy. I'm like, well, first and foremost, I'm a month away from being 46, so I'm not here to be the one being the young-splainer. If the 46-year-old in your life is the young guy, that's a problem, okay?
Young-splaining to Belichick.
Maybe.
Mac.
Maybe that's the case. So that's thing number one. I found it entertaining, and this happens with every Super Bowl halftime show. This is not unique to Kendrick Lamar. Every Super Bowl halftime show, you have your people who think, oh my goodness, that was fantastic, because they like the artist. And they have the other people who are somewhat familiar with the artist and are like, it was fine. And then you have the people who just want to be mad, like the miserable people. All right. Now, you take the miserable people who are just miserable about everything, and then you throw in the added political stuff that's happening right now. Well, that's a great recipe to go on to Twitter and see some of the worst shit you've ever seen tweeted. Okay. I have opinions on that, but I can save it for another day if people truly want to hear them. I want to stick specifically to the performance itself, because I think this is what people are missing the point. Big artistic message that Kendrick was sending, nailed it, crystallized, having Sam Jackson show up as Uncle Sam, to explain that the game is rigged was a very well done choice. That's not why people tuned in to the halftime show. They wanted to see, those who knew what was up, wanted to see if Kendrick Lamar was going to get to the Super Bowl stage, give you Not Like Us, and do A minor in the direction of Drake. And not only did that man tease it throughout, like, I know what you're here for. And I know that it's litigious out there, but I'm going to give it to you. And when Drake was walking across when Kendrick Lamar was walking across the stage and he looked directly at the camera when he said, "Say Drake," I was like, that man's deceased. His career, I mean, I always thought his career was over anyway because of this. But to do that at the Super Bowl and then have an entire Super Bowl crowd go A minor.
And then the game over when the performance was with the cards up in the flip cards up in the stands.
Not only with the game over,
that was pretty good,
but having Serena Williams,
right? Which I strangely give Drake more credit now. I didn't realize that he had a relationship with her.
Dated Drake.
Yeah.
That got so toxic that she was going to let it go, but won't. And now she's there, sea walking at your expense.
Yeah.
That was just, that is the greatest haterific achievement that I've ever seen in my lifetime. That's why I said at the beginning of this podcast, it was a great night for the haters because the Kansas City haters had a night to behold. And then the Super Bowl halftime show was the greatest performance of hating on another individual artistically that I have ever seen.
Not to mention, they showed Taylor Swift on the video board. She got booed.
She did get booed. I'm not surprised by that.
Kind of am.
Why?
She's got people everywhere, man.
Not there that night.
Apparently not in New Orleans.
Not in New Orleans that night, But that comes for everybody. Every artist, that happens to every artist. So I thought the performance was great.
I mean, they weren't booing Paul McCartney when they showed him.
I'm sure that there were some Lennon McCartney rights people that would boo Paul McCartney. And I'm sure there are people who boo Paul McCartney because he gave us Wonderful Christmas Time. If you think about it. Never forget. He gave us that. Okay? Oh, and not to forget The Girl Is Mine. Super creepy with Michael Jackson. It wasn't all bangers, man. Wasn't all bangers for Sir Paul. We all got our misses. We all have our misses.
Got to run your own race, Joe.
This is true. So no, I thought the halftime performance was fantastic. It basically threaded a very fine needle of giving you the entertainment value. If you knew the whole story with Not Like Us and why it was a big deal and why it was a big game of will he or won't he. So he checked that box off. And then he also checked the box off with having a very clear message on a very high stage that's going to have people in their feelings about it. Elsewhere, Bill Belichick, speaking of hateration, speaking of pettiness, as a connoisseur of petty, I tip my cap to Bill Belichick and his girlfriend.
Getting some Dunkin' Donuts money.
So let's actually recap the whole week, shall we? So Bill Belichick shows up to NFL Honors on Thursday. And I did not realize until I saw a different angle that Bill Belichick was wearing a jacket that was more maroon than red. And it was an NFL 100.
I was going to say,
patch.
It was like this thing he had been honored by the league previous.
Yeah. So that makes total sense. And of course, he's there with Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend. He's got all the rings. She's got a ring on too because he doesn't have enough room for all the rings that he's won. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. So Jordan's there. Cool. Got it. Dress specifically, strategically designed to get heads turning. Mission accomplished. Then we get to Sunday morning where there was a brunch with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. This is a win for Jordan and for Carolina because Bill shows up in a Jumpman UNC shirt. Okay.
Yes.
And she's wearing a shirt that says Super Bowl champion Atlanta Falcons. Can you explain the significance of that shirt, Joe?
Well, we don't know if that's an actual legit one from the Super Bowl that they beat the Falcons
28-3,
or if it was the one that he had made to make himself feel better. But every year, Final Four, World Series, you name it, they have the shirts ready. They have to assume that one of the teams will win.
Yes.
But they can't not make shirts just in case there's a big upset, right?
Right.
So they make both shirts. Typically what they do is they send those shirts to Africa and other third world countries to give people who don't have clothes. Like there's a Super Bowl Bills. Like I would love to get my hands on a Bills Super Bowl champion.
Oh, I want a Super Bowl 50 Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
Shirt.
Also would be a good one.
That's what
right?
I want, especially as we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of it.
So the question is, did Bill that night pay somebody in that visiting locker room to get one of those shirts and keep it this whole time? Or did he just simply have one made?
And why is she wearing it?
To remind everyone that they won that Super Bowl.
Sure.
I get, or because he likes to remember that one fondly because it was the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history.
Maybe. I don't know. And
All
then
the reasons, man.
We get the commercials, and she was in the Dunkin' commercial with Bill Belichick.
Nice.
As they're doing the whole self-deprecating Bostonian Dunkin' Donuts thing with Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck and all of that kind of stuff. And when I saw the commercial pop up, I was like, wait a minute, did she really show up in a commercial? I was like, oh yeah, that is her. So there she is with Bill. And I think this picture, this screen grab of the commercial with Bill with the fist up and she's all excited with the smile and everything else. I hope people understand what we're about to see unfold in Chapel Hill.
I don't. So
I hope you all understand. I set up all these pictures on, if you're watching on YouTube, and where we are over the Super Bowl week about how she knows where the cameras are.
Yeah, she seems very familiar with that.
Okay. I've seen these relationships before. I grew up in Boca Raton, for heaven's sake. I've seen these relationships before. All right.
72-24.
Buddy.
Have you?
Buddy. Let me tell you about the Boca Raton Hotel. Okay? The big pink hotel. Let me tell you about that. You want people watching. You want people watching.
I'm not familiar with the rat's mouth.
Dude,
life, man.
Dude.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure if Hayes is listening, he can tell you about some of the people watching that takes place at the Carolina Country Club. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Like people, it's kind of like it's the old hustler thing. You know when you see it. Okay. And I'm looking at this. I'm like, nah, I know exactly what this is. And I respect it. I don't bring it up in a bad way. I mean, these are two adults knowing exactly what this relationship is about. Salute to both of them. But here's what I'm going to tell you.
I would love a Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is how it's going to play out. I'm going to try to make this as relatable as possible. Because you're on Facebook.
Yeah, of course.
Are you familiar with the couples that do a little too much on social media?
To show you how great they are?
Yeah.
Or they want you to think how great they are?
Yeah, like they're projecting this lifestyle and how things are going that usually are masking some real issues behind the scenes. Now, I'm not telling you that there are issues going on behind the scenes. What I'm telling you is that they have enough online behavior, Jordan in particular, that I've seen this play out on social media enough on Facebook with, real life couples that that make you go, ooh, buddy, when the shit hits the fan, it's going to get real cryptic online. And don't act like you, the listener, aren't above doing a little online sleuthing to see what's really going on with that couple. Oh, did they change the profile picture? What did that mean? Oh, so the guy changed his profile picture to a picture of him with the kids. Interesting. Her profile picture is like, she's out like in Cabo. Okay. Interesting. Everything's kind of scrubbed differently. So when you live your life extremely online like this, you invite some scrutiny and some speculation as to how this is going to play out. And there are people that I know who are literally on a Jordan Hudson beat.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Watching the Instagrams.
Oh, no.
To see what kind of cryptic messaging is going on. This actually happened with Charlotte Wilder. I don't know if you're familiar with Charlotte Wilder.
I'm not.
Charlotte Wilder has bounced around a bunch of different media outlets. And now she's doing a sports podcast with a friend of hers called Sports Gossip. She was with Meadowlark for a hot minute too. And she went into a deep dive over roses and what the roses meant. Like she had posted roses while she was, like Jordan had posted roses while she was in New Orleans. And the caption in Charlotte's mind read, they got into a fight. And now it's playing out on social media. And that's the kind of online behavior you're going to get between these two. And it's going to get messy.
Okay.
It's going to get messy. That's all. I'm just preparing everybody. I am preparing everybody for once the football season gets here, that there's going to be two beats. There will be the football beat, and there will be the online social media beat to see what does it really mean of what's going on behind the scenes. And if she did a particular Instagram story, is there a cryptic meaning behind it? I don't know.
Kind of hurts my brain a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're not on Facebook very much. So that might explain it. Next up, Tom Brady. As you mentioned, it was a good night for Tom Brady, but it was also a bad night for Tom Brady. We were talking about 28-3. It was a thought that had crossed my mind specific to the Chiefs being down at halftime. And I thought to myself, the Eagles, and Nick Sirianni in particular, do have a 28-3 in them, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's in them. It's in them.
Okay.
And also the Chiefs, hey, man, that's who they are. They come back. These are the kinds of things that would drive people nuts. But it wasn't meant to be, so 28-3 remains the pinnacle of these Super Bowl comebacks and everything else. So that was a good night for Tom Brady. As far as the broadcast is concerned, I don't know how much of it you actually heard.
I didn't hear any of it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Fox broadcast booth, whoever the consultant is, made it abundantly clear that everything was supposed to be set up to make Tom Brady sound relatable by tying everything that was happening in the Super Bowl back to his own Super Bowl experiences.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
But here's the problem with that. I'm not watching the Super Bowl to hear about what has been discussed ad nauseum before this Super Bowl. We've heard the Tom Brady stories. We got 2 documentaries about the dynasties, for heaven's sake. He's got his own podcast where he can talk about his Super Bowl experiences. People who are tuning into the Super Bowl likely are there to be watching the Chiefs or watching the Eagles, and they're not really caring about what it was like for Tom in those situations. He's had multiple opportunities to tell those stories. I'm going to be really curious to see if he comes back for next season.
Don't see him coming back.
And if he does, if they go back to the drawing board, because it's so bland and so just not relatable that it makes for a really bad broadcast.
What do you mean? He showed up with a $600,000 watch. How's that not relatable?
Well, that's the thing that I don't understand. It's like is the beat the opulence of Tom Brady? Is that what it is? Like you want us to you as a consumer, do you care that his suit costs $500,000? Do you care?
The watch?
Or the watch?
I mean,
I don't care.
I'm okay with him telling the stories about the Super Bowl specifically. Now, if you're going to do that in every broadcast, that's not great. But he should be telling stories about the Super Bowl because if he's part of the broadcast team, it is Tom Brady. He is the greatest quarterback to do it. So you want to hear those stories, but he has to get better at telling those stories. And the poor guy, Kevin Burkhardt, is that his name?
Yeah, Kevin Burkhardt's the play-by-play.
That poor guy. I mean, he's been just shoveling the whole season, working.
Yeah.
His back is exhausted. Give him back, Greg Olsen, please. Please.
Well, Greg talks about the game.
Right. But
you know what I mean?
Greg also doesn't have 7 Super Bowl rings. Do you see what I'm saying?
I get
just a different spot to be in.
Well, like for instance, Fox did some really weird things. I happened to catch a little bit of the pregame and then did this strange AI thing for Jimmy Johnson.
Okay, I didn't see any of that. So
Jimmy Johnson, and again, dude, I was sick. So I'm sick, if you will. So they do this whole AI thing about Jimmy Johnson. I got what they were doing, and I'm like, where is this all going? Like, does Jimmy Johnson, did he die? Is he going to retire? Like, it was kind of weird like that. And he's emotional. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this is it. This is the payoff. He's going to announce this is it. This is my last broadcast with Fox. I'm retiring. And then Menifee kind of sets him up like, so is this it? And he goes, one day at a time, Kurt, one day at a time. I was
if I was Fox, I would get rid of everybody on that panel.
Yeah.
You can keep Strahan, but I would do a hard reset of that panel because think about it. It's Howie Long. It's Jimmy Johnson. It's Terry Bradshaw.
Terry's got 2 more years, I think.
Sure. But you could fire people. I don't see what those guys add anymore.
Okay. With Terry, I agree with you on Terry, but they're not going to get rid of Terry, just going to fire him. They're going to let him have a retirement season because you got to remember Terry was part of Terry's been with Fox from the jump.
Right. I get that.
So you can't just say, get the fuck out, Terry.
I get that. But there's way too many voices. Like if you were trying, I would do something with Gronk, Brady.
Sure.
I would get rid of Strahan too because he's on way too much other TV. Like he's not following football anymore. He can't.
No.
It's not possible.
No. And
So-
with Brady in particular, I know what you're saying. Like, you've won these Super Bowls, so let's talk about them. But it's one of those things that I maintain. People don't love you like that.
Yeah, but if you can give me specific plays and specific scenarios, he was on with Cowherd before.
I caught it.
And that was actually like the best thing he's ever said.
He was good.
That was like the best thing he ever said.
But in the
And then
broadcast,
it's harder to shoehorn that stuff in there.
So don't do it and just talk about the damn game, because I don't need Brady in the middle of this. Like, oh, Tom, in these moments, like, yeah, it's really special.
Well, yeah, it was not good.
it's you've worked all year to, like, just stop it. Just stop it. And finally, as predictable as it can be, perfectly timed, Aaron Rodgers news on Super Bowl Sunday. All the insiders just happen to find out at the same time that Aaron Rodgers might not be coming back to the New York Jets. And that, of course, kickstarted a conversation of where could he land? What's he going to do? I think what Aaron Rodgers is going to find out is going to be very similar to what happened with Bill Belichick. There's not that much of a market for you, at least in terms of a starter's role. And especially at a place that already has an established culture as well. Because that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
As we found out with the New York Jets the last 2 years, the Aaron Rodgers culture is not one that is a good foundation. Big thanks to Homefield. Check them out, homefieldapparel.com. I'll be utilizing those fleece-lined hoodies when I head up to Minneapolis this week. It's going to be a high of 13 on Saturday.
Have you been to Minneapolis before?
Yes, I was there for the Final Four in April. It was mild weather at that point. This is peak cold Minneapolis.
You're familiar with the tunnels then in Minneapolis?
I've heard about them, yes.
Yeah.
But Jacob's playing these games outdoors.
Right. I'm just saying when you get around downtown Minneapolis, they built those tunnels for a reason.
Yes. I will be utilizing those, and I'll be utilizing these hoodies and a lot of other layers to stay warm. Check out homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order. You're just coming off all those snacks, all the cheese dip, step away from the guacamole. Head on over to Happy and Hail. Check out the app. Use that promo code OG25.
OG25. Download the app, save 25% on your initial order. We will also have reward membership cards to give away. I don't know what you want to call them. We'll have to come up. We'll have to workshop.
We'll workshop that. But
the code is live. OG24. Download and save.
And big thanks to our
25.
friends. Big thanks to our friends over at Breeze Through. Check them out online, breezethrough.com. Just because the big game is over doesn't mean your need for beer goes away. Trust me, with some of this ACC basketball, you need all the beer.
Man, I was going to say the Canes are on hiatus, but the Wolf has to be back home at some point. No.
So go get your beer. Go get your gas. Go get your coffee. All at Breeze Through.
Wednesday, they got Louisville. Oh, they got 2 home games this week.
Let's go. And of course, our friend Matt Davis over at State Farm. Check him out online at insuregarner.com, theoginsurance.com, or call him directly at 919-779-8277. You can save on your home and auto. We take feedback on this show. We do. And oftentimes, the feedback that I hear is from Carolina people. I don't want to hear from a couple of state guys. I want actual Carolina perspective. Fine. Listen to you people. So what we do is we reach out to folks who actually have some Carolina connections, Carolina takes, Carolina perspective. And today we have Kevin Kalair. Clearing the Air is the podcast. Kevin's in the studio. Kevin, what's going on, man?
What's going on, fellas? Thank y'all for having me, man. It's been a minute. Love you guys. I didn't know you guys were actually true state guys. I thought you guys just kind of leaned into it.
Anyway, look, if there's a true quote unquote state guy, it would be Giglio. Me, I try to be professional and objective and look at these things. Or if I could tap into my old 850 The Buzz days, I hate everybody's posse.
Fair.
If you think I don't like your squad, well, I can point out to a collection of fans from the squad you think I like that think I hate them too. So I try to keep it even keel on that kind of stuff. But oftentimes what we'll hear in feedback form is that our Carolina perspectives are a little off. We have one listener who likes to heel-splain us from time.
It's actually been pretty good.
It's very good.
Kind of helpful.
And I appreciate the heel-splaining.
Yeah.
So I feel like, Kevin, you can help provide more heel-splaining as somebody who actually comes at this from a Carolina fan, Carolina perspective. And Joe and I talked about it earlier. I mean, I'll keep saying it. UNC keeps playing the same game. This time they won. Awesome. Carolina can sit here and say, if they get more production like this out of ... Sometimes it's Jalen Washington. It's like, if they could just get that more out of Jalen Washington, they won't.
Right.
And in this particular case, it's Benal Lubin. If they could just keep getting that out of Benal, man, they've had all season to try to get that out of that guy. Happened to work out on Saturday against Pitt, but it's just not consistent enough. And I think that's what I keep getting down to with this Tar Heels team. They just can't stay consistent. And that's going to be their story the rest of the year. The best thing I can say about their game tonight against Clemson potentially is that you've got that Duke celebration hangover that gives Carolina an in for tonight. But matchup-wise, it is not set up for the Tar Heels to solidify an NCAA tournament bid, or at least keep themselves in the conversation. I just don't see that happening tonight. But as the Super Bowl proved, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And to one of your earlier points, yes, North Carolina's played the same game for the last 2 months. They'll probably play solid. Well, okay. Earlier they were starting slow, and then having in the second half rally and lose close or win close.
Yeah.
Then they'll start playing solid, get themselves some lead. They've done this twice against Pitt. Both times, right at the end of the half, they're up 8-10 points. And by the time it's halftime, it's 2 points or whatever it is. But again, if we expect Lubin or if we expect Jalen Washington to not be a swinging door inside, and we expect what's his face Withers to not shoot threes when we don't want him to shoot threes in the corner when he's in the game, then we're not being realistic. If you expect Elliot Cadeau, undersized guards, to not turn the ball over when they are pass first guys, and you have bigs who can't catch, we're being unrealistic. And if you want to point to what just happened, then if that's the case, you're saying we expect Ian Jackson to be on the bench. And I know that you don't expect Ian Jackson to be on the bench from Carolina fans.
Yeah.
So tonight, I don't know what the spread is. I haven't taken a chance to look at what the line is. I don't expect Carolina to cover whatever that is, because Clemson, it's all about size to me. And everything is just a little too difficult. It's too difficult for North Carolina to generate offense, even against teams that aren't necessarily like overbearing with size. You can see them when they're playing search for answers. Whether it's because we can't stay out of foul trouble. For whatever reason, a kid who averaged double-digit points at Belmont can't get any burn on the court. If he can't defend, well, whose fault is that? Because I'm sure he couldn't defend last year either.
Yeah.
But he's 6'8". He can shoot, as we think he can shoot. I haven't seen him make a lot of shots. And he can't get on the court. So they're searching for answers constantly. But you're stuck because you're forced to do a certain thing, play a certain way, and play certain guys solely based on, we'll call it previous production or fan favoritism.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what you get.
Like you want to bench RJ Davis.
I really hate you just put me on the spot with that. So I was having a conversation. I'm just kind of
reading between the lines here. I'm like, are you kind of advocating to bench RJ Davis, an ACC Player of the Year?
I don't want to bench RJ Davis. I don't like RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau playing at the same time. Whatever we have to do to make that not happen, that's fine. It's funny because when Caleb Love was around, the team ran best when RJ Davis was the primary ball handler.
Right.
Now it's almost like flip-flop, where now the team runs best when RJ Davis is not the primary ball handler, but he's small and he shot hunts and he's not like uber athletic. I would much rather prefer RJ Davis on the court when guys like Drake Powell are on the court, not guys like Ian Jackson.
This is a majestic spot for the Tar Heels. Written off for dead. Come back home. Number one, after the way that they played in Cameron, it was important for them to respond.
Yeah.
They did against Pitt. That was a good win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. However it happened, it was a good win.
Yeah, just so
against Pitt.
it's the 10th one possession game for the Tar Heels. I think
we've seen that part of the story,
and that's
now,
the most one possession games in ACC history since the 70s.
Sounds about right.
That's insane to me.
Sounds about right.
Anyway,
tonight, what a majestic spot. What a hangover.
Oh yeah,
for Clemson.
Oh yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. I have a whole chart for when State beats Duke or Carolina, then plays somebody the next game, and you're like, oh wow, what just happened? Yeah. That's weird. We were out celebrating. But I love a good conspiracy theory. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't play ACC fantasy anymore. I did not have a single clue who Victor Locken was until this game.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him. He's obviously some sort of, Soviet bloc player. It turns out he's from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
He transferred from Cincinnati.
Oh.
So this is a Wes Miller conspiracy game.
Oh, I see.
Wes Miller sent Victor Locken to Clemson in order to beat Carolina tonight.
Tar Heel for life.
For Tar Heel for life, to make sure that Carolina doesn't make the tournament. And then Bubba Cunningham will have no choice but to fire Hubert Davis and hire Wes Miller. That's what I call the long game.
That is a long game. I guess, Kevin, this gets to the question. Carolina can do better than Wes Miller, right?
You'd think.
No offense to Wes Miller, but I don't understand the Wes Miller obsession that people have. This is not Roy Williams in hiding here.
Yeah, no, look.
Wes Miller is not the best coach to have not won a title. ... Like, that's not what this is.
Yeah, you'd think, and I don't know what it is about. Like, so I guess Carolina's got this in the family sort of thing they like to do.
Yeah,
but if it's me, and I assume Jay Wright doesn't want to coach college basketball anymore, or he would be. And I assume that Mark Few, I would just like to go ahead and give people the benefit of the doubt that no one has called him and said, dude, please get out of Gonzaga and come play. Come coach somewhere. But I assume he's said no enough times where people stop calling. But that coach
he was
Alabama,
called last time.
He was called last time. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, good. Then someone's doing their job correctly.
It's not like Bubba didn't get an answer.
Yeah.
You know, so people are like, we got to go. I'm like, no. There have been discussions. He's good.
Yeah. But if you can go get the coach, I don't see why, if you're North Carolina, you can't convince my man at Alabama to come to North Carolina.
There we go. Money.
It should be that simple. And then, but to your point about firing Hubert Davis, I don't even know if
he's not getting fired
after whatever he was saying on his radio thing about we're going to do this next year and this and this and this, which drove me up the wall for different reasons,
as it should.
I guess that
the further we get away from that radio show, I think the worse that was a look for Kevin for Hubert Davis.
1,000%.
They're interchangeable. You just use either name. It's fine.
I mean, look, dude, here's the thing. I mean, it doesn't like all I do is go to the sports phone and it's like who the fans who the fans want to fire today, you know? But hey, Ryan Day and Nick Sirianni should give you hope. Okay? They give you hope. Anyway, but yeah, like the further we get away from that Monday radio show, the worse of a look I think it is for Hubert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because again, it's not like he's not afforded these opportunities.
Right.
It's not like Bubba's in the way of keeping him from getting a GM, and now they're making this big revelation about it. I'm like, no, man, come on now.
Yeah, we had at my job, we had one of our VPs. He's retiring. Someone stepping in, and one of our division VPs, we have a bunch of divisions all over the country, he wanted the job. And he came up under that previous VP. And one of the reasons he didn't get it was because they said, well, look, if we hire you, we're going to get the exact same thing we were getting before. And we want a different perspective and a fresh outlook on the business.
Sure.
And it almost feels like you hired Hubert, who wanted to stay old school because Roy was old school. And in reality, you probably should have went outside for somebody with a different perspective, because it sounds from everything I'm hearing from everybody that it's not that this GM perspective, like you just said, wasn't available. It almost feels it was a choice to not have it.
It was a choice.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, it was a choice.
So
this opportunity, though, with Clemson tonight, they win this game on the road.
Oh,
now all of a sudden they have 3 total paths to the tournament right now.
Yeah.
Right. You win tonight, then you win twice in Charlotte. You're probably in.
You're probably in.
Right.
Yes.
But if you lose tonight, then you got to beat Duke back in the Smith Center. We already can figure that matchup out. And then again, maybe win 2 or 3 times in Charlotte. Or lose tonight, lose to Duke, and then you have to win the tournament in Charlotte.
We've seen it before.
Which has been done before.
Yes.
But thinking about that, from last week, from the lowest of the lows, even if it was not artistically, a masterpiece, beating Pitt now at least puts them back in position to say, all right,
yeah,
you beat Pitt, you can beat Clemson, you're back onto at least a realistic path. What if they lose tonight? You're now on one of those, now if,
sure.
But at least they have that look at it tonight. And again, what an incredible spot to be in. And I've covered games down there when Carolina is there. They will have whatever the place holds. They'll have 40% of that building tonight.
Yeah.
40%. You think there's a lot of ECU football, Carolina basketball fans? There's a lot of Clemson football, Carolina basketball fans. A lot.
I was going to say,
and they will be in the building tonight.
Who was the Clemson football player a couple years ago who showed up in Carolina gear? I forgot the guy
for the game.
Yeah, he showed up for the game. It was a Clemson football player.
I'm telling you,
it's a real to the game in UNC stuff because he's a Carolina basketball fan, which I thought that was perfect. It's such a great encapsulation of college athletics, man. It's fantastic stuff. All right, Kevin, before we get out of here, I thought this was a fascinating conversation that I wanted to bring to the podcast. You sat down and you asked Joe and I a question about the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And that every time you tune in, they lose.
Correct.
Well, there's a simple solution.
Yeah.
Stop watching.
Yeah. It's
just why I don't know why this is complicated.
I have this really weird like conspiracy thing about me and my luck just in general. So if the game is going a certain way, prime example, I was watching the Carolina Pitt game. I left and I came back and Carolina was up 30-19. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, what am I watching? How did it get to 30-19? Somebody clearly like messed something up.
Yeah.
Because now, it's 33-30 or just whatever it is, just like that. And I think that it's the same with the Canes to where if I either try to bet on it or if I decide, I'm going to watch it. Like
it's 2025. You don't have to watch it live.
Yeah.
I'll give you this too. If they're playing a bad team, don't bet on them. If they're playing a good team, bet on them.
Yeah. I always bet the under 5.5 on the goals. If there's 2 teams that are playing each other, bet the under on the goals. If you can wait one period when it's 1-1, bet the under on the goals. You
Even
get
better
value. I know you guys had the whole DraftKings thing. So
now that we're coming out of the Super Bowl and people are starting to recalibrate on college basketball, and some people might be paying a little bit more attention to the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes are not hard to figure out. I'm at the point where you can put any number of finish combinations, more fins, more wins. It doesn't matter. You can put any finish combination in there. Okay. They're going to generate a lot of shots. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be great shots. They're going to be Corsi Kings, right?
Corsi Cup champions.
The Corsi Cup champions. You can spit out the natural stat trick website of deserves to win, which I think is a hilarious stat because nobody deserves to win. You either win or you don't, or curse or don't. There's no such thing as deserves to win. The Canes and the way that they play is great in the regular season. And they're going to be consistent. They're going to have a high floor. But I'm starting to wonder what their ceiling actually is based on what we're seeing. And the one thing that's going to be curious to see playing out is not the wins or the losses. It's going to be Mikko Rantanen's minutes. Okay. I get that, you got to take some time. Everybody's got to gel. You got to do X, Y, Z. I get all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I think we overthink these things. You got your system. Cool. But you know what Mikko was doing before he got here? Scoring a shit ton of goals. So now you're putting him in a spot where he's not playing as much and his production's down. I don't know about you, but I would want the guy that I made a big deal for to go out there and do the thing that we got a deal done to do, which is to go score goals. So if you got to adjust because the player's that good, you adjust. And that's going to be one of the curious things as the regular season continues. To see if his minutes increase or if it stays the same, and then his production kind of stays the same. And then that we have a larger conversation. I've been waiting for this conversation. We just haven't had the right player to truly kickstart the conversation because the players have been here too short of a time, like in the case of Jake Gensel, a trade deadline acquisition, or there've been homegrown guys, and you could just make the argument, well, maybe we did not get, maybe we didn't draft the right guy, because we always hear this from Rod, right? He's like, well, I mean, they draft him. I mean, that's what you get out of him. I mean, he's the number 2 pick. I mean, it is what it is, which has always been a very not so subtle way of Rod being like, man, I wish our
number two
pick would do this, right?
Svechnikov.
So now you start to wonder, well, wait a minute. Could it be that the way that this team likes to play might not be conducive for these guys to do what you want them to do when it comes to the postseason? Regular season, they'll be fine. But Saturday was hilarious because after the not so great showing against Minnesota, they had this cathartic goal explosion against Utah. And Miko's not in the lineup because he had gotten hurt in the previous game. Now, he's good for the Four Nations tournament. And I just, in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, this is the conversation we're probably going to have between now and the playoffs. And I don't know if people are going to be able to handle themselves online.
Can you school me real quick on the value of getting up? I mean, I get the like, if you shoot 10%, if you shot 100 shots, that means you made 10 goals. Well, if you shot 10 shots, you only made 1 goal. Like, I get the numbers piece of it.
Yeah, it's all about just giving yourself chances.
But like, it seems to me like the Carolina Hurricanes get up shots just to get up shots. And it's like shooting it at the goalie's chest isn't necessarily like,
I know.
Like, what benefit does that have?
No, you're up to speed. Don't worry.
No, you're up to speed.
You did it.
This is not complicated. This is not complicated. And the argument is that eventually, given the odds, given the percentages, you're going to score or break through more than not.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of relying on your dudes being your dudes. Yeah. And typically when you get to the postseason, guess who has more consistency getting further? Well, the team that has the dudes that just straight and get you a goal. Yeah. So I would, again, it's a debate, and there's no one or right way or wrong way to do it. It's one thing that I do agree with Eric Tulsky when we talked to him, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about goaltending, and that you don't need Vezina level goaltending to get you to the cup. Go look who's done it. Right. And I'm kind of like seeing where he's going, because yes, there's multiple ways to win a hockey game. You need good enough goaltending.
Right.
And in order to win with good enough goaltending, well, you got to put up points.
Yep.
And unfortunately for the Canes, when they get to the postseason, these things end up becoming like trying to win games 1-0, and that ain't going to do it. No. That's just not going to do it. So again, that's just kind of setting the table for the rest of the year for the Hurricanes. And I don't bring this to be pessimistic about the Canes. It's just one of these things that we have enough data from the Hurricanes now to ask these types of questions. And I think they're fair questions. Again, I'm not ripping Rod. I'm not ripping Sebastian Aho or Andrei Svechnikov. It's just legitimate talking points to wonder, as the expectations for the Canes, not just from us, not just from the fans, their own expectations. They don't make a move to get somebody like Mikko Rantanen unless they think they have a legitimate shot at making a run this year. They don't make a move to get Mikko Rantanen unless they think they have a legitimate shot to re-sign him, which I guess we'll close on this. The most fascinating part, the theory that they're going to flip Mikko if they can't sign him. That'd be hilarious to me.
I don't put anything past them. I mean,
that is a real thing between now and March 7th.
They'll work every corner they can.
That if they know they cannot sign him, they'll just be like, fine. And they'll flip him again. So that would be hilarious.
So one of the worst things to be in sports, especially team sports, is mediocre, or even like err more on the side of good but not great. Because what happens is you never draft high enough for the dudes we're talking about. But you're also like, you're never bad enough to draft high enough, but you're also then never able to get good enough.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. How do you get out of that purgatory? It's almost like you have to hard reset and say, we're either going to decide to go be really bad, to reboot this thing, Philadelphia 76ers trust the process style, or
what'd that get you?
Right. It got you. Never mind.
Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
What you're bringing up is the Panthers. The Panthers were exactly that. They did a hard reset, and what'd that get them? Two bad coaching hires.
Yep.
So
you're stuck if you're the Canes.
No, you're not. I mean, given the history of the Canes, you'd rather have this than not. Although there are some people out there. There are some true believers who would rather go the UConn route. Are we going to make the playoffs?
No, that's the Canes. Or had been up until Rod.
That's what I'm saying. Given the
Yeah.
choice, would you rather have these years of Rod Brindamore as a head coach where you're consistently good?
Yep.
It's just that you don't make it very far in the playoffs, or the UConn route of, oh, we're here.
If we're in,
let's freaking go.
Yes.
I mean, there's no wrong answer in that. I mean, we're talking about fan behavior.
Sure.
Clear in the air. Kevin Collaire. Hey, man, appreciate you hanging out.
I appreciate it, guys.
We'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
Anybody can podcast on a Monday, Joe.
And literally anyone could podcast on the Monday after the Super Bowl.
So what do you do on a Tuesday after the Super Bowl?
You got to get creative. Got to get those juices flowing.
No, man. It is mock draft season.
Oh,
Joe, buddy.
No.
It is time.
I'd rather talk about where will washed up Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers land than the mock draft.
Where are the Panthers picking? Do they make a move? Do they move back? Who will sit there? What has Tom Fornelli said? What does Will Brinson think? Wow. We get the, I'm sure we're going to get the Mel Kiper 1.0.
We already got that.
Did we already get it?
Yes.
Oh, then the 2.0. It'll drop for ESPN subscribers only.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. Mock draft season is here. No. It is the triangle. There's plenty of things to talk about that go beyond the NFL. So we'll check in with our friend Patrick Stevens about the latest on the ACC and the NCAA and the bubble. We'll get a definitive answer of what's going on with Carolina with their game against Clemson tonight. And we will see you then.